Left out during the elementary school picnic. Left out during the middle school camp. Left out during the high school trip. Yu IlHan was always alone. But when the entire world disappeared, he was left behind, ignored by humanity, forgotten by angels, abandoned by God. For 1,000 years, Yu IlHan stayed on Earth alone. No friends, no enemies, just endless time and relentless training. While humanity leveled up in other worlds, he sharpened his skills in silence, crafting, hunting, becoming something beyond human. And now, humanity has finally returned. The great cataclysm has begun, and the man who trained alone for a millennium is about to show the world what true preparation looks like.
I also go to dungeons, too. Yu IlHan, who had experience in making traps of destruction, but had none in entering dungeons, could not hide his surprise after seeing that the scene in front of him had changed as soon as the tip of his fingers had touched the vortex. Just what is the principle? You just made them until now. Don't you know that Daedalus, who created the Crete labyrinth, got trapped inside it? You sure are good with your words. Was this space really created from the trap of destruction? To think that such a small lump of metal twisted such a large amount of space, separated it, and maintained it. Although he had seen the scene where the trap of destruction was being activated, it was a different feeling to see and feel the scenery inside after coming in the dungeon himself. Moreover, even the feeling of the air was different to the outside. The unknown that he loved the most. The unknown which burned his passion for adventure. He fell into a deeply moved state and looked around him. While looking around, he found a huge gray-colored lump of metal rolling around the corridor. For some reason, the excitement which boiled until now cooled down instantly. Normally, novel MCs will shout, "This is the metal I was looking for," like a fool and run to it, then get messed up, but I already know the fact that it's a monster. You sound quite disappointed. Yeah, I feel like when I was spoiled by Mom on The Sixth Sense. His unknown emptiness couldn't be described by anything. He didn't know whether to be angry or be sad. While grumbling, Yu IlHan took out a weapon from the crossbag. There was a more suitable weapon to confront hard lumps of metal, rather than a spear which used slashing and thrusting as its main attack. That was a weapon which had a huge axe blade on the head and a heavy hammer on the other end. An ivory-colored weapon made entirely out of the shadow leopard's bones, starting from the handle to the axe blade. Heavy battle crusher, rank, rare attack power, hammer, 1,250 axe, 1,270, option, weight increases by 50% upon hitting, durability, 1, 350/1, 350. It was a masterpiece which had an alpha option even without going through mana crafting. The options add ahead was a weight increase option which maximized effects in an environment where hammers or axes would be used. Allhog the rank was rare. In fact, it was rare to go above rare in this world. Yu IlHan's ability, pulling out one rare or above after another, was the abnormal one. However, I'll be able to make better metallic weapons when I clear this dungeon and come out, so I will have to throw this away. Moreover, Yu IlHan had no ability to become friendly with others, so he couldn't pass them on to lower-level people like in other RPG games. Such a good weapon will be thrown away. When one felt empty, everything else felt empty. With an empty feeling, Yu IlHan dashed with the axe held high and shouted while striking down his axe on the lump of metal, feeling empty. Go croak, T/N. This will become a thing from now. What do you mean, feel empty? It's your full strength. The axe with an enormous amount of strength concentrated on it dug into the lump of metal with strong strength, with another level stronger due to the 10% increase due to concealment. It recognized Yu IlHan the moment it was attacked, but since it was in the middle of being beaten up, it couldn't resist properly. And just like that, it split into halves. Critical hit. You have earned 137,928 experience. You have earned the record of LV50 1 Metal Heart. Critical hit has become LV4. You have awakened Blunt Weapon Mastery LV Max. You can evolve this skill if you have the skill evolution materials. Yu IlHan stopped for a moment. He had never thought that it would end in one hit. Since it ended so easily, he thought that it may be an enemy, which revived until it became powder, but it wasn't that. That was just the end. However, the next moment, he pretended that he was expecting it to end with a single strike. The title is really one hit for you. One hit for me. I think it would be an insta-kill even without a critical, but yes, you did well. After checking that there were no enemies around, Yu IlHan lightly recovered the axe and looked at its body. At first, he thought that a huge pumpkin was rolling around, but it was made from countless lumps of metal gathered together. Amongst those countless metallic lumps, there was a lump which emitted a blackish light, so that made him assume that it was the heart. You did say to pull out he heart, but its body also seems to be quite hard, though. The body is just a bit stronger than steel, but the metal heart's heart is a metal that's in a different dimension. Not only it is the hardest part, it is also the nucleus which contains all its mana. Although that is also the reason why metal hearts don't have any magic stones. This is... Yu IlHan struck its body again and made the heart appear. Surely, that thing emitting a wondrous black light looked like it was something good. To Yu IlHan, who looked at it after pulling it out, Erda explained. Metal hearts, when they notice the enemies, they send their unique mana from their metallic hearts into the part they want to strengthen. Originally, it's a monster even people with second jobs have a hard time to hunt. Normally, one would distract its attention from a front, and another one would ambush it from behind. Thank you, Erdawagon. E/N Erdawagon. He did think that he had hunted a second-class monster, which was above LV50, too easily, but there was a reason. Metal hearts were weak to ambush. Well, although everything was weak to ambushes, metal hearts were especially so. They can only use their strength after noticing their enemies. How weak was that? However, life was something where you could be backstabbed at all times. Being arrogant after killing just one might send him to hell. Even in novels, side characters were cleared up like that. He had to run away without hesitation if about 10 appeared at once. So he proceeded inside the dungeon while not loosening his tension. And one day passed. You have become level 38. 2 strength, 1 agility, 1 health, 1 magic increases. There was no twist nor counterattack. Metal hearts were beings which had less population in the first place. He was so bored in adventuring the dungeon, to the extent that he would call out jackpot when he found a metal heart after walking for 10 minutes. As soon as he found them, Yu IlHan struck them down with his axe, and the metal heart, which could not notice Yu IlHan in his concealment, always allowed him to succeed in his ambush, and they got split into halves. As Erda said, the metal hearts were disposed of in not 2 hits, nor 3 hits, but in 1 hit. When the fight ended like that, he would just senselessly break its body, take its heart out, and put it inside his cross bag. And it was an infinite cycle of that. Yu IlHan muttered in a tired voice. Were dungeons such an unemotional place? You're just abnormal. Just how did you master blunt weapon mastery to the max as well? You know that 10,000 different weapons all end up to be the same, once they're trained to the extreme, right? Yeah, how about I hit you about 10,000 times? No matter how he thought about it, there was quite a distance to the dungeon adventuring that Yu IlHan had dreamed about. This was just labor. Moreover, as the period he stayed in the dungeon got longer than he thought, he now had to take care of his meals with the jerkies he had brought. So, the menu for his meal had turned into a choice between cheese jerky or beef rib flavored jerky. If he knew such things would happen, he would have brought barbecue-flavored ones too. I want to see Rita. Why so sudden? If you really want to meet Rita that badly, then don't you just have to become a higher existence quickly? Nobody interferes love between higher existences. Erda threw a slightly suspicious line, but the hungry Yu IlHan didn't look into it. E/N. IlHan is frustrated winking face. Rita always cooked me rice. Author's note 4. You want to see her with a reason like that? Ah, the jerky is delicous. In the end, aren't you eating the jerky deliciously? The time Yu IlHan sensed the change while exploring the dungeon with the nitpicky Erda was 2 days after that. It was a change incomparable to the mana crafting process with the angels who came to find him midway. Erda, isn't that guy a bit bigger? It is. Monsters also have their individuality like humans, so it is obvious that they look different. But even so, isn't a little too bit for that. This was the conversation they had after encountering an enormous cave in the dungeon. Until now, metal hearts were exercise ball-sized, have become massive beanbag-sized. Even so, it's the same metal heel. Erda, who was nonchalantly replying, momentarily closed her lips and looked at the large-sized metal heart in the middle of the cave. Yu IlHan waited for a while before she flabbergastedly shouted, "That's a big metal heart. Drag that bastard who named them with such little enthusiasm in front of me right now. It's not the time to joke around. Although it's only a word difference, big metal hearts are 20 levels above metal hearts. Just how did something so strong appear already? That just makes it 71, though." Yu IlHan's level judgment senses had been paralyzed after I also go to Dungeons 3. You have earned 548,701 experience. You have earned the record of LV70 for Big Metal Heart. That was easy. Yu IlHan, who smashed the big metal heart into smithereens in one strike, landed on the ground lightly with the pile bunker while muttering. However, immediately after that, he was dumbfounded after looking at the state of the bone bullet, which was completely nailed in the ground. It was good that the bullet shot out powerfully after receiving the elastic power of the giant's rubber band in full strength, but not only was it deeply embedded on the ground to the point that only the head peeked out a little, there was even a large crack over its body. As he knew how hard the shadow leopard's bones were, it was even more shocking. There was one thing he knew from this. The bullets are one-time use. I wouldn't be able to accept it if there weren't such prices. The situation was different from the time he hunted the giant leopard or the shadow leopard. At that time, there were people helping him, and especially the help from the Empress, who could use strong magic, helped out a lot. However, now what? No matter how his physical body and techniques were abnormal, he just ended a monster twice his level in just a single strike. How can I retrieve the bullet? No. Now that it came to this, should I make a frag shot under the premise that it's unretrievable? Just retrieve its heart. Erda urged Yu IlHan, who, befitting of a blacksmith, was designing a new weapon. He retrieved the bigger and brighter heart of the big metal heart, compared to the ordinary metal hearts, and briefly tested its strength. It was amazingly durable. Hey, it's much stronger than metal heart. Isn't that insane? The final evolution form of metal hearts, the King Metal Heart, is a metal that boasts of superior durability even in worlds one level more advanced than Earth. Although, as a fourth-class monster, it won't appear in this dungeon. You were surprised with just the big metal heart appearing, though? KHM, it's just a coincidence. I can accept that the monsters which were already on Earth had evolved abnormally. But these monsters are, in the end, new monsters appearing on Earth. This big metal heart is the mutation. From now on, we wouldn't be able to meet any more of these. However, Yu IlHan thought while loading the second bone bullet on the pile bunker. If she says that, the opposite will definitely happen. And as expected, they ended up meeting the second big metal heart in a cave deeper inside the dungeon. Fucking Earth. Nothing is going the way it should be. Tell me how much of the dungeon is left. Wait a bit. While wondering whether to take out the pile bunker or not, Yu IlHan urged Erda. Originally, it was forbidden to leak the information on dungeons, but in truth, Erda, who helped Yu IlHan until now, honestly told him the information. If she said it was the reward for the quest, then there was no reason why it wouldn't work. We're only halfway there. Okay, let's seal the pile bunker first. Yu IlHan had the confidence to end something like a big metal heart in one go if he used the pile bunker, but the little ammo left weighed on his mind. Even in novels, weren't there cases where the MC got beaten up by the last boss due to using up all mana, or ammo, or potions? Although Erda strongly claimed that that won't be the case, no matter how he thought about it, there would be a monster stronger than the big metal heart at the end of this dungeon, so he couldn't waste the bone bullets now. However, the ancestors of all time said this: saving up is wasting. The other obvious pattern in novels were that they get beaten up while try to save up. Should I use the weapon at this time? Should I drink a potion at this time? The characters in novels meet countless split paths and are urged to make a choice. No matter what they chose, if they survive, they're the main characters, and if they die, they're side characters. Sometimes, the main character just dies, but then, the popularity of the novels just dies as well, so that was an exception. However, Yu IlHan was neither a main character nor a side character, but a dropout. So, the choice he made was neither the pile bunker nor going just with his body. It was the other weapons he brought. Violent 1000 bomb hammer, T/N, Doorman reference. Violent 1000 bomb hammer. Rank, unique. Attack power, 1974. Ammo, 3/3. Option, spreading force of the frag bomb increases by 30%. Durability 1, 120 to 1, 120. Yu IlHan shouted while taking out a hammer which had a massive lump of metal on one side. Unlike the heavy battle crusher from last time from the crossbag. Of course, he was still under concealment, so he didn't get noticed by the big metal heart. Why did you make a nasal sound just now? Yu IlHan ignored Erta's question and gripped onto the weapon with both of his hands. This weapon was the masterpiece, small-scale weapon made from the giant's rubber band. On the head part of the hammer, a cartridge with the giant leopard's and shadow leopard's sharp bones inside was installed, and it would be loaded after installing the giant's rubber band and pulling it with all his strength. After that, if an enemy was hit, the rubber band will shoot from the shock of the hit and make the cartridge explode. Countless bone fragments will dig into the enemy's body. This was such an evil weapon. As a weapon no different from one which fused close-range weapon and a frag bomb, it naturally far surpassed modern frag bombs. The point which was better than the pile bunker about this was that due to the rebound from the rubber band, the cartridge at the back of the hammer will be automatically loaded. What was even better was that Yu IlHan had about 50 of these cartridges. A person like you who fights joyfully should be rare too. It will be impossible in just one strike. I need to attack before it splits its body and attacks me. Before jumping at it, Yu IlHan simulated his movements inside his head. Although a simulation would become much more complex if the enemy can move, as he knew that he could hit where he wanted for the first strike, it was quite smooth. With a strange shout, Yu IlHan kicked off the ground. Like the time he confronted the last big metal heart, he jumped after the third step. Following that, he smashed down the hammer right in the middle of its body, and with a popcorn popping sound, the cartridge exploded. The weapon activated successfully. The thousands of durable sharp bone shrapnels dug through the hard metal, and a bone-shivering sound resounded while they broke everything in their path. Immediately after it recognized the strong attack, the big metal heart soundlessly expanded its body and assaulted Yu IlHan. KKKKRRR. Before he even landed, he was about to get swallowed up by the wave of metallic fragments, but before it assaulted him, the lumps of metal seemed to twist around, and in the end, they clashed into each other and collapsed just like that. There was no need to mention the reason. The countless number of bone shrapnels which dug throughout his body had hindered it. While lightly swinging the hammer to nail the bone fragments into the big metal heart's body, Yu IlHan landed smoothly. Then, he watched it state while stancing himself to attack again. However, in conclusion, that was for nothing. Wow! Although the big metal heart was moving while dividing the metal clumps that made its body as much as possible, the bone fragments which dug through deep inside its body gave an effect of binding it while hindering its movements just by being there. It was like scattering salt onto a snail crawling on top of lettuces. It was an effect which overturned Yu IlHan's imaginations of thinking it would be able to break it since it's just some frag bomb, right? However, he tried his best to look cool and shouted. Of course, this Yu IlHan had calculated everything from the start. Don't lie. You got better. If one's partner is you, then anyone would become like me. Now, he had no reason to use the 1000-bomb hammer. Yu IlHan mercilessly struck down with his axe the big metal heart, which was crawling around while spreading its body, trying to assault him, and not long later, it collapsed by itself. You have earned 579,192 experience. You have become level 40, 1 strength, agility, 2 health, 1 magic increases. He had become level 40. He leveled up twice in one day. Even considering that he had holed up in his workshop making weapons and traps of destruction for 1 month, his level should be at the forefront of humanity. since there won't be many who would kill second and third-class monsters for leveling up. And as he knew that, he was worried for the other returnees. Are the other humans leveling up well? At least, the Empress should be doing well. Don't worry. That is that. But I'm worried about my parents. You do seem to worry about the Empress. Erda picked on something unexpected. Yu IlHan asked her while asking her, "Why are you worried about the Empress? Did some other angels give her a quest or something?" "No, it's not that." With that, Erda shut her mouth. Yu IlHan was suspicious of her behavior, but as he wasn't interested that much, he didn't diss any deeper and just retrieved the heart from the big metal heart. After that, Yu IlHan kept exploring the dungeon, but only big metal hearts came out, and unlike his imaginations, great metal hearts, huge metal hearts, gigametal hearts, and such. I also go to dungeons for the less than 30 traps of destruction that Yu IlHan made were installed in various places throughout the world, and changed the properties of the already existing traps of destruction, which were installed on Earth by God and the angels, but could not efficiently attract monsters to fit the property of Earth. When thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dungeons activated in order, no matter how many years the monsters endured and developed specially on Earth, they couldn't hold out. Like that, the monsters which were in cities or highways and such utilities used by humans started disappearing. Now the world was stabilizing. Several countries in Asia, following Korea, Japan, and China, are stabilizing. In other news, there are reports that restrictions have started to appear on the quests that could be received in other worlds. The higher existences, as said by the otherworlders, are seemingly. It was troubling for Earthlings to only do quests in other worlds, when monsters are now trapped in dungeons on Earth, and even new monsters, which weren't seen on Earth, were now appearing. The higher existences, with God as the center, were probably limiting quests in order to make them return to Earth. It was very effective, and even now, it was making the number of returnees increase. No wonder it's so noisy. Yu IlHan turned off the TV and muttered. Even now, he could hear some noises outside the workshop. It wasn't the small noise made by military police patrolling. This was a noise made by lively human interaction. I wonder if my mother and father have come back yet. Probably, Erda nonchalantly replied, seemingly not interested. It was no wonder, as she was focused on the equipments that he had just finished making now. Did the options attach? Yeah, probably. I was half sleepy, so I couldn't confirm, but I think the message was quite long. In fact, the reason he turned on the TV was to put off his sleepiness, other than information gathering. Erda wasn't a person to chit-chat. The reason he was tired? Simple. It was because he hadn't slept a bit after he came out of the dungeon. Now that the work with creating traps of destruction had ended, to celebrate, he concentrated in blacksmithing with the metal hearts and the big metal hearts. To be more exact, he couldn't stay still due to his body being itchy for work. No, to be more exact, now that the creation of the traps of destruction was finished, he didn't know when the angels would come for the blacksmithing tools he had, so he hurried even more. Anyway, as a result, before the angels came for the tools, he safely completed all work. It might have been even better if there was a magic stone. The form which their magic condenses into are their hearts, including metal hearts. The metals which are able to be acquired from monsters are called core metals. The equipments made with core metals need less mana in mana crafting. It's easier for an option to be attached to, right? You understand well. Just thank me for telling you such an information before such a metal was monopolized by other people. Nah, just give me the rest of the rewards. Yu IlHan retorted while grumbling and checked the things he had made. First, the most important thing was the defensive equipments. From a helmet to a pair of boots, to make a full-plate armor that covers his entire body, he invested almost all of the hearts of big metal hearts. Befitting of a higher metal, they were horribly hard and were terribly hard to melt. However, Yu IlHan had experience in handling Harcanium, which far surpassed Big Metal Heart's heart by several levels. The Big Metal Heart couldn't resist against the perfect harmony of Yu IlHan and the Eternal Flame, and was instantly melted and processed. The next was a weapon. The steel spear, which suffered a lot until now, should rest. Leaving aside an entire Big Metal Heart's heart for his spearhead, He invested Metal Heart's hearts without restraint and made a spear entirely made of metal. Since he was at it, he also made a greatsword and a war hammer. He wanted to make a single weapon of every kind he could use, but it wasn't like the hearts of Metal Heart were abundant in quantity, so he restrained himself after that. He also made new ammo for his pile bunker. He made the bullets by sharpening monsters' bones, which he had plenty of inside his workshop, and he covered the points with metal to make their piercing powers increase. Using all of the bones he had, he made close to 100 bullets. He made ammo, so could he leave the piled bunker body alone? He wasn't able to dismantle everything, but he touched some inner mechanisms and underwent an additional processing, only able to be done with metals. An awesome weapon was finished. In fact, he wanted to make a new set of blacksmithing tools to replace the current steel anvil and the hammer, but as Erda held him back, he refrained from doing so. He had a guess as to why she restrained him. Anyway, I'm done with all my work now. I didn't miss anything out, right? Really, such a tenacious human. If you're saying that, then everything's done, I should wash up and sleep. Are you not checking the information of the equipments? I'll do that after I wake up. I don't think anything will enter my head right now. Leave the rewards for then, too. Yu IlHan placed the hammer he held for over 24 hours on the anvil and softly wiped the top of it. As he had been with this tool for over 1 month, he was too disappointed to be apart from it. Wait for me. I will definitely bring you back from them. You don't have to speak like a main character saying farewell to his lover. You know me too well. I said you were just too simple. Yu IlHan dropped his attachment to the hammer and the anvil and stood up. He had already placed all the equipments he would use in the future into the crossbag. T/N. I think I will capitalize crossbag from now on. However, as he was about to gather all the equipments, steel spear included, which he would never use later, he suddenly could see the obedient eternal flame flickering. Yu IlHan lifted the leather armor up, thinking, what if? The eternal flame emitted a strand of flame outside the fireplace, as if sticking its tongue out. Do you want to eat this? The flame flickered. Yu IlHan asked Erda, can I feed this to it? The eternal flame is no pet. It's all right to feed it. There is also experience and record dwelling inside equipments. At least, it won't damage it. He had no people he knew, so he wouldn't be able to pass this equipment on anyway. Yu IlHan immediately threw the leather armor into the fireplace. The eternal flame burned like a chick opening its mouth and swallowed it. Then it started trembling like it was excited. He then threw the weapons he made from monster bones, and those he wouldn't use anymore, to the eternal flame, and finally, he also unhesitatingly threw the steel spear at it. T/N. The eternal flame swallowed everything and seemed to burn everything cleanly when it burned while emitting a blue light at one moment. What the heck? Is it leveling up or something? It's similar. Didn't I say that the eternal flame burns for eternity and grows? But to think it proceeded to the next stage already. It wasn't like he wasn't curious how and to what extent it had grown, but anymore was a limit to his consciousness. Yu IlHan waved his hands about twice to the eternal flame, which shook its body as if it was delighted, then left the workshop to head home through the noisy streets. He couldn't see his parents yet. Did they not come back yet? He suppressed his worries and took a shower. He wiped his body and looked at the mirror and thought useless things like, didn't I become more handsome? And dived onto the bed to sleep. When he woke up, the house was filled with the fragrant smell of a meal. At that moment, Yu IlHan inwardly heaved a sigh of relief. Both of them came back safely. Good for you. Erda seemed to have noticed his such thoughts as she said that. He smiled and put on his clothes. When he went to the living room, his father was already eating his meal. Why are you hurrying, father? I need to go to work now. Work? Work as soon as the stabilization was done. And it was still night. To the frightened Yu IlHan, his father spoke with a bitter voice. The limits on the financial transactions have just disappeared. All the late companies will be left behind. And if I don't go to work, this father will be left behind by society. At the conversation where households collapsed and society collapsed, Yu IlHan's heart also collapsed. I heard that assistant manager Kim of our department decided to leave the company and was going to be a hunter since he had some talent in mana. Son, I'm sorry I gave you bad DNA, but please learn mana and become a hunter. How about you? Did you advance? I barely got a first class. Those monsters are so scary. Yu IlHan felt that he might cry as he could feel his father's sadness. There was one thing he could do to his father. Here, father. Yu IlHan gave his father a thin metallic inner that he made while making his own armor. That was made from the heart of the big metal heart, which was harder than any material on Earth right now, along with the essence of metalworking that Yu IlHan trained for more than 100 years. If anyone checked the information, all the ability users and rich people would want to exchange it using mountains of gold. What is this? What? Yu IlHan's father also possessed enough intelligence to judge the worth of the armor through the information. So he asked Yu IlHan after he received it, seemingly in disbelief. Son, where did you get